Cleveland nearby. And basically all of the drains in the streets drain to the beach here, or drain to the lake. So all the runoff, and also runoff that comes from, like if we get a heavy rainstorm at the sewage treatment plant, they just let all the water, the raw sewage, flow out into Lake Erie. And in the summertime, some of that stuff backs up, and so it makes it unsafe to be swimming. It's Lake Erie. It used to be all brown when I was growing up, and now it's pretty blue, or blue-green, and that is because of an invasive species called the zebra mussel. I guess it came over like 20 years ago in the bilge water of various boats from exotic places, and basically just covers everything in the shallower water, covered all the spawning grounds of all the native species, and has taken over, and it clogs up power station outflows and causes all these problems. And it's so small, it's a mussel species that's so small it's not even edible. So it's not really useful for anything but causing problems. But it did clear up the lake because there's so many of them, and they filter water so much in getting their food that they cleared up the lake, where it used to have all this brown sediment in it. Now it's clear and blue, like a sea, like an ocean. It's not the cleanest beach or the nicest, but I think it's pretty good in the summertime. There's lots of garbage that washes up with the zebra mussel shells. There's some crazy people over there going swimming. They look like kids. Wow. You can kind of see Cleveland way in the distance. Banjo just loves running up and down these hills.
Come on, let's go. Let's go. Oh yeah.
It's pretty clear from the number of people that are here in this little park that people do have a need for, connecting with nature and appreciating nature. And it's just that these areas are so small and there's not very many of them. This is pretty much what, tens of thousands of people have available to them as a connection with nature. But we just need more natural areas, and it's just not happening. In fact, they're becoming less and less. So nature is disappearing, even though people need it and they appreciate it. This right here is the ruins of the old trolley line. I believe it's a trolley line and not the train that went all the way along the coast of Lake Erie here, along the shore from Cleveland, and stopped at various points and became obsolete when cars became popular. And so now it's just a ruin, leftover bridge. It would be nice to have something like this in operation again, then you could quickly get from here to Cleveland and stop along the way without having to use a car. I was able to find some pictures of this exact rail trestle from when it was still in operation. It was in fact the old interurban trolley that went from Cleveland out past Toledo, across nearly the entire state of Ohio, until the car made it much less convenient and fashionable. These are the suburbs that I grew up in. And big yards, and the houses aren't as big as the houses they build today, but they're pretty big. And it's just interesting to see how much time and resources people put into maintaining their yards and their lawns, and they don't spend a lot of time in them, and they're, just all lawn. They take a lot of maintenance, a lot of effort and time to keep a lawn maintained, and it's just so much space How is that efficient or easy? Seems like a lot of effort to me for little benefit. Yeah, I guess the basic idea of the lawn is so that people can see the space around your house and see that it's neatly maintained, and it sort of presents this image of neatness. And yet, you know, lawns used to be something that only the royalty maintained in England, and yet here it's like everybody wants to be royalty. It's become the culture that everybody has a mansion to maintain with its own lawn. So this is the wooded area at the end of my street that I grew up on, that was my playground when I was a little kid, and we used to come back here and climb the trees. We'd look for snakes underneath like big pieces of metal or wood, and we'd pick blueberries, we'd pick raspberries and blackberries, and grapes, of course. There were grapes here that were the descendants of the old vineyards that were here, and you can still see the furrows of those vineyards in the ground here. That hasn't changed. Some of the area has been disrupted, like there's piles that have sort of been worked up over the years, but overall you can still pretty much see the rows of the vineyards. You can see them right even behind me right there. And the reason that there were vineyards here is because it's so close to Lake Erie. You have a microclimate that's called the lake effect, and so when it sort of moderates the temperature, so that when, you know, in the spring, when you might normally get like warmer weather coming and forcing the buds to open, you would get a cooler temperature here because the thermal mass of the lake would sort of radiate its cold for a couple, maybe like a mile or so away from the lake, and we're not even a half a mile, I think, from the lake right now. But then also in the, you know, fall, you would get the warmth of the lake sort of spreading a warm, radiating its warmth through, you know, a mile away from the lake. So this area, it would be moderated from severe temperatures, and that is perfect for growing grapes, because one of the problems I have in my vineyard is that we have these temperature extremes, and if the temperature is too warm in the spring, all the grapes will sprout, and then we'll get a hard frost, or even a frost at all, and the shoots will die back. But that doesn't happen around here, which is why they planted grape vineyards in this area. I was actually able to find some pictures of the old vineyards that were here before these houses went in. These vineyards went back before Prohibition, and their descendants were the grapes I picked and ate in these very woods when I was a kid. They were the grapes that got me interested in growing grapes, and that led me to hatch the plan to have a vineyard at Dancing Rabbit. Some of these trees have gotten really big. I remember these oak trees, these pin oak trees, used to be pretty small. They were probably only like 20 feet tall, and now they're going upwards of 50 feet. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share and give a thumbs up to the video if you liked it. See you next time.